My name is Wes Fryer, and today is December the 7th, 2011. I'd like to welcome you to this 60-minute podcast about iPhoneography, and I am delighted to have this opportunity to share about iPhoneography because, number one, I love photography, and number two, this is a topic that may or may not be one I have an opportunity to always present at technology conferences when I do breakout sessions and share sessions. I love photography. I think photography is a wonderful activity for so many reasons, not only to preserve, family memories and personal memories. There's a whole lot of good learning that we do that relates to digital literacy and digital citizenship and communication when we talk about photography and images. I've had an iPhone since the iPhone came out in 2007. And I have found this to be the most valuable and important photography device, camera, that I've ever had. And one of the reasons is that it's always with me. I rarely am ever without it, but it really is a game changer to not only be able to take a picture, but to be able to edit it on the fly, to be able to take pictures that are more sophisticated and advanced than the pictures I could take with a regular digital camera, and then also to be able to share those readily. And so what I hope to do today in this presentation is share a variety of different apps, different techniques, but also people that you can connect to if you would like via Twitter and via their blogs to just be engaged in an ongoing learning journey with respect to photography using a smartphone like an iPhone. Now, I want to tell you that all of the resources for today's session are available on a Google site that I've set up. You can get to that by using this shortened URL, which is just wfryer.me/iPhoneography. So if you go to that site, that's the one that I'll be using, and depending upon when you view this, some of the links may be updated and a little bit changed because I'm going to continue to use that website on an ongoing basis to share this particular presentation. Before I jump into the iPhoneography specifics, I want to just really quickly give you an overview of 4 things that I have integrated into my ebook called Playing with Media: Simple Ideas for Powerful Sharing. And you can access a lot of resources related to this book, including the whole chapter on copyright, by going to the website playingwithmedia.com. And this is important because you may or may not be an educator, and this session is not specifically and only tailored to educators. But if you are an educator of any stripe, you're a teacher, you're a librarian, you're an administrator, it's important to know that engaging our students in photography isn't something that should just be left to the fine arts teachers. There are so many different important conversations and good learning opportunities we can have with respect to photography, and they relate specifically to learning in the classroom. So, number one, learners need to make stuff. It's different when I create something and actually then share it with a group than when I'm simply more passive and just sort of doing a worksheet and turning something in. The active process of creating has inherent benefits for learning. Number two, we need to document and share what we make to a greater degree than we do in a lot of schools today. And one of the things I'm going to challenge all the classroom teachers out there to do is to consider a photography, a photo 180 project. Instead of a photo 365 project like we'll talk about and see examples of that would you be doing every day of the year, I would challenge you to have a student take a picture of some learning that's happening in your room every single day you're in class. And then that collection of pictures can become a rich archive that you can draw on, not only just to show as pictures, but later to have students create different kinds of media products with. They can create animated slideshows. They can reflect on things that they've learned and things that they remember. And by documenting that throughout the year, you end up building this archive that students and parents and others can draw on and look to. And you can too as a teacher. So documenting and sharing what we make is really important. Another thing that's important is the ethic of minimal clicks. And I talk about this in Playing with Media as the idea that if I could do something, but instead of having 20 clicks, doing it in 5 clicks, that's a really big deal. Not only for people who know how to do the more complicated version, but also for those who don't. Technology can be complicated, it can be overwhelming, and we got to use the word simple, carefully, but I do think there are many ways in which we can do extremely powerful things with a much smaller number of clicks than we've done in the past. And many of the iPhoneography examples, tools, and apps that I'll show you today, I think exemplify that ethic. The last thing is that the more media we create, the better digital portfolios we'll have. And I believe that every single learner ought to be creating and having a digital portfolio that represents their learning to the world. One of the things we need to do is take charge of our digital footprint. That means, what do people see when they go to a search engine like Google and they search for us and for our name? Now, if we have a common name, it's going to be a little bit different than if we have a really unusual name. There's going to be a lot of Bob Smiths in the world. But if we want to take charge of what those search results are and put our best foot forward and have people see what we want them to see when we're searched for or we're Googled, then part of that is creating content that we claim online. And so as teachers, we can help students, whether they claim their digital work in our class or not. That's going to depend on different factors, their age, their parents, lots of things. By creating media products and by archiving those and creating a portfolio, we are setting students up to have a nice library of digital content that they can choose to go ahead and share and let the world see. So the more we create, the more opportunities we have to create good stuff. We rarely create wonderful things, first try. It's going to take multiple attempts to be able to do that. So I think we need to do those things. So playing with media is about text, images, audio, and video. In today's session, we're going to focus specifically on the images section of playing with media and talk specifically about iPhoneography. And I'll also give a little shout out to this website, which is share.playingwithmedia.com. I'm inviting any school educators, any classroom teachers, librarians to share student work with, of course, student and parent permission on this site, and I'm having a monthly drawing for some kind of a technology goodie. So go ahead and check out what other teachers have shared there, and share some of your own ideas and some of your own products that students have created. And those are tied to these categories of text, images, audio, and video. Well, I'm going to go ahead and jump out of my slide deck now and hop over to our website for iPhoneography. And the photograph that you see here in the center is a picture that I took this summer in Montana in Glacier National Park. And this picture is an example of iPhoneography because it uses what's called high dynamic range photography. And that means that there are two pictures taken simultaneously and they're blended together to create that picture. So if I was just using a regular camera, I would not have been able to probably capture the depth of light that's in that picture. There are some really bright whites. There's snow and ice in that picture. And there's also dark clouds and dark shadow that's on the mountain. So that's just one example to kind of start out with of iPhoneography, and one that I really like a lot. So I'll go ahead and open up some of these links in new tabs, and we'll go to these. And these are examples that I encourage you to check out and explore in greater depth. I have learned a great deal and continue to learn a great deal from other people. And these pictures here for iPhoneography examples from Montana are just some other pictures that I took. The second photograph, I happened to, again, have my camera in my pocket, right? It's my phone. And so one evening when I was walking there along the river, just looked up and saw these two people kind of silhouetted against the sunset. And wow, I was able to capture that because I had the camera with me. And I think that speaks to this idea of how powerful it is to have the camera with us. Took a hike when we went to Glacier National Park, and was able to see just amazing streams, mountains, trees, just gorgeous geography. And again, the opportunity to have the high dynamic range app like Pro HDR that I'll talk about in this session. This picture was an example of that. This is on Flathead Lake. And the depth of color that you see in this picture, I mean, it's amazing that this was taken with a small little camera that's in my pocket, right? It's not a $1,000 Nikon camera. I mean, this is an iPhone. And so, again, that was an HDR picture that I took. This is an image of a lake that is, I think, by Sealy, if I'm remembering right, driving up to the park from Missoula, and you can see the tree kind of going into the water there, just pretty stunning. This is an example of a time delay picture. I'll show you an app today that will allow you to take time delay pictures. I was actually hand holding this, and it would have been a lot better if I'd had a tripod or a monopod. Anytime you take a longer exposure, this exposure was a couple seconds, I think. It's always a good idea to have something to stabilize, but that's something we can do on iPhones now. We have tripod mounts. We have the opportunity to, be able to do some effects that we might think, oh, I've got to have a regular SLR or a single lens reflex, more expensive camera to be able to do that with. Another picture here of the lake. It's been too long since I've been there, and I'm not able to say right off the bat where that was. But these are just examples of pictures that I took this past August when I was there in Montana. So wonderful to be equipped on your phone with these apps in advance before you go to someplace like this. The next link I want to show is from Dean Sharesky. Dean is an educator in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan. And last year, in January, I guess it was this year, January of 2011, he took the photos from last year, from 2010, and put all of them to song on video. And so you can take a look at this. This is a pretty remarkable montage of pictures. I won't play all of this, but I'll just play a little bit here.
Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kids were fast as lightning.
All right, so I'll go ahead and pause that there and just refer you to the link to go ahead and check it out. I know Dean took hours and hours to create that montage, but what a neat way to remember the year. And I actually was engaged in a Photo 365 project this year. I sort of fell off the bus as I was getting my dissertation finished later this fall, and I need to go in and put more photos in to kind of catch up. But this idea of taking pictures every day, sharing them each day, again, it leaves us open to do all kinds of things with those pictures. We can create a book with those pictures. We can, of course, just have a slideshow on the internet. We could make a movie, putting music that fits with each one. I mean, there's all kinds of possibilities. Bob Sprankle is another person I want to draw your attention to. He is an elementary teacher in Maine and teaches in Wells, Maine. Bob is an amazing, digital artist. He is engaged in using his iPhone for photography, but he's also, creating digital art with his phone. And he's created a variety of different blogs that are spaces for sharing this work and having others be able to see and access it, but also comment on it. And earlier this week, I wrote a post about media sandboxes, and I think Bob has provided a great example of these kinds of media sandboxes. So if we go over here to his iPhoneography blog, which he set up on the website Posterous, all of these images can be simply emailed to an address, and then they can be viewed. So he's kind of played around with some different images here. In that case, there's several different ones on the same post. So this is his iPhoneography blog, and he's got different categories over here on the side that you can take a look at. I'll also point out that in the sidebar here of Bob's blog, there's a link to Stephanie Roberts' book called The Art of iPhoneography, A Guide to Mobile Creativity. And I do have a link to this directly on our page as well. I have not read this book yet. In fact, I'm putting it on my Christmas list to hope that maybe Santa can bring that to me. I think my wife is still open to suggestions. But a great resource for those of us interested in iPhoneography and learning more about these topics. Bob also has a 365 project, and I'll show you an example of some apps that can help us post images to a photo blog. And in this case, I think he has a WordPress blog that he's using to share those. I've been using this year a blog on Tumblr, which is a free quick blog that allows you to just quickly post content up there. The last one that Bob has is a Photoshop blog, and he hasn't updated this one in as much, as recently, but these are pictures that he's edited in Photoshop. So all of those are examples of iPhoneography sites that have been created. How much does it cost to create a website like one of these? It's free. You can do that using the tool posterous.com. You can use Tumblr. Those are two really good places. You can also use an app called Instagram, and there are thousands of people around the world using Instagram on their phone to be able to share their pictures. So there are additional examples here that I could show. I'm just going to open up two other things. I'll open up a Flickr group that has 7,711 members as of today, and this is a group on iPhoneography. This has a group pool, and there are over 200,000 pictures that are submitted to this pool, and these are all pictures taken with iPhones. This is a specific, group on Flickr. So if you would be interested in joining this, you simply go to this page, you join Flickr, and then you say join this group, and then you'll be able to submit pictures, and different groups have different rules about how many pictures that you can submit, but you can submit some of your best pictures, and this is a way for us to get feedback on the pictures that we're creating, because people will be able to leave comments and be able to see them. It's great to have your own site over here to kind of put your pictures, but with something like photography, it's oftentimes great to have other people be able to intersect and see our images and give us feedback. That can be valuable just from an encouragement standpoint, but it can also be very instructive as people give us other tips, or people might ask, what app did you use, or what technique did you use, and that's how a lot of this learning takes place. Last one I'll show is Nick Nowicki, and Nick is an educator in Hong Kong. I actually just found this blog today, and had posted, again with Posterous, a series of pictures from a walk that Nick had taken here recently. I think it may have even been today or yesterday. So, wonderful examples of iPhoneography, what we're talking about. Let's get into discussing a little bit about videography, and then talk about some apps. I want to mention that the iPhone and iPhone photography is the focus of this presentation, but we can certainly be taking video with our iPhone, and in this same podcast series that I'm doing called the 12 Days of Playing with Media this month, I am going to do a session specifically on iPad videography, and I may end up doing one on iPhone videography down the road. But there's a couple different examples that I'll just highlight here and show you. One of the things that's a game changer about shooting video...
The Hobbit is the story of Bilbo Baggins, who lived a peaceful life.
Sorry, I didn't know that was going to start auto-playing. One of the things that is a game changer is the fact that we can edit and share it so quickly. So the video here, The Hobbit in 5 Minutes, was actually shot on an iPad and edited on iMovie. But we do have iMovie on the iPhone as well that we can use to edit and share. There's a link I have here to a variety of different videos that I shot at Glacier National Park. And some of these are pictures, but a lot of these are videos. Again, well, maybe not again. It would not have been possible for me to turn around and publish these and share these so quickly if I was using a traditional camcorder and importing them and doing that whole traditional process. So the fact that it can be done quickly with a minimum of clicks and shared so readily is really a big deal. Last link here is to some information about some puppet videography that I've done with 5th grade students. And it's really been a game changer to have mobile devices like iPads and iPhones to be able to create that kind of content. So going down our list here, we've also got a couple of links here to concepts and sharing platforms. I want to point out to you several different quick share websites that I have linked here. And I've already mentioned these, but I'll go ahead and bring these links up if I can. Try to right-click these or control-click these. If you're on a Mac, by the way, and you don't have a 2-button mouse, you can configure the newer touchpad to actually, on the right side, be a right-click, or you can use the control key on your keyboard. Tumblr is a website that is being used by millions of people around the world to share images, and that's what I use for my 365 blog. Posterous is another site that can be used with apps that work on smartphones, Android phones actually, as well as iPhones. YFrog is a popular site that iPhone users are using to share images, and I mentioned Instagram as well. So I've got links on our page to those 4 different what I would call quick blog sites. And before I start getting into apps and app lists, I'll do one more thing, and I've already mentioned this, but let me go to the link. And this is for high dynamic range imaging, or HDR. There are 2 apps that I am more excited about than any other on my iPhone, and one of them is called Pro HDR. The other one is called Pano, which allows you to create panoramic images. Before smartphones, it wasn't really that feasible, I think, for sort of normal people to create HDR images and even panoramic images. I have done a little bit of panoramic images using a tripod, with my old 35mm Nikon, but the results were never, spectacular. And they can be and are spectacular with apps like we'll talk about today. So let's jump into apps and start examining some examples of what we can use and do. Under the apps and app lists, I first got a link to iPhoneography capture apps that I updated this summer in July of 2011. And this is a website called Appalicious. There are different sites you can use today for sharing apps. I really like Appalicious because at the time I synchronize my iPhone or iPad to iTunes on my laptop, I have an opportunity to go ahead and dynamically build my library and have it identify all the apps that I've installed, add them to my list, my library on Appalicious, and I can rate apps, but I find the best tool is their list tool. So I've got a list of 10 different apps here, and I'm going to go ahead and jump in and show you a few of these apps. So this first one is called Pro HDR, and if we go ahead and link to it, I think it'll link to it on iTunes. Maybe not. I guess I have to click download this app. And here it is on iTunes. You can see that this app is currently $1.99, so it's a $2 app. One of the questions we certainly need to ask ourselves is, what's worth paying for? And this is an app that I use, not every day, but I use it almost every single week, and it really is fantastic. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and hide the stuff that I've got open on my computer. I've got my iPhone opened up, and I'm going to go into the folder that I have for capture. And these are the primary apps that I'm using for iPhoneography capture. Now, I'm going to go ahead and use the Pro HDR app, and you probably know the iPhone comes with a built-in camera. So maybe before I go to Pro HDR, let me just show you the built-in camera and what it can do. Because if I just open up the camera, down here in the bottom right corner, I've got the choice. So this will be interesting. Hey, we can see ourselves forever. I've got the choice of switching between the camera mode and the video mode. So here I am in camera mode. And there we are. We're going on and on and on. I've got at the top of the screen a button to say HDR on or HDR off. And by turning that button or by pushing that button, I can actually take 2 pictures at one time. One's going to be the HDR picture, and one is going to be with it off. So let me, as an example, take a picture here. I'm going to take a picture, and you can kind of see I've got some bright sunlight coming in over here through the window. So I'm going to take a picture, and the iPhone says it's saving the HDR version, and that means that on my photo roll I'm going to get 2 pictures. This is a preference setting that you set in System Preferences. So let me go to my pictures now. And what we're going to see is the last picture I took, which is an HDR version. And then if I flip over, you're going to see the non-HDR version. Now, notice in this non-HDR version, the books on the bookshelf underneath the video camera there, it's really, really bright, and it's a little more difficult to see, and it's kind of washed out. The whites are more washed out. And if I flip over to this next one, the window frame there is not as washed out and white, and the books are also not as washed out. So what the app is doing, it's not letting you change settings, but it is combining 2 different versions of the picture. One that is exposed with more brightness, and one with less brightness. So let me go ahead and go into my settings on my iPhone, and what I want to do is adjust my my settings for my camera So I think if I go into Photos, yep, I've got this choice. Now I'm not running the iOS 5 yet. I'm still the version before 5. But I'm betting it's going to be pretty much the same as far as where this setting is. You can see there's this entry here for HDR, high dynamic range pictures, and I have the choice keep normal photo on. And the reason I like to do that is because sometimes the HDR picture isn't the better one. A lot of times it is, but if there's motion and somebody's moving, sometimes it'll be blurred, because remember, it's actually taking two different pictures and putting them together. So it doubles the number of pictures I have. I go in there later and delete them, but there's a lot of storage space on the iPhone, so that's how I have this set. Now, love the fact that HDR is built into the iPhone 4. However, I don't think that is the best way to take an HDR picture. So I'm going to now go into my capture apps. I'm going to select the Pro HDR option, and I'm going to hold my camera up over here, and I'm going to take a shot of that same scene that we took before, and I'm going to tap the screen to start. Now it's going to analyze the picture, and what it's going to do is it's actually going to show me how it is stepping down the exposure, and then it is going to go ahead and take both pictures. So what I've got to try and do is hold the picture or the camera as still as I can, and now it actually is going to combine those pictures, but it's going to give me a slider to let me adjust a lot of things. So it is dynamically putting these pictures together, stitching them together, rendering a high resolution version, and then it's giving me a lot of choices about what I'm going to be able to do in terms of editing and tweaking this. So you might be able to see here on the image, I've got brightness, contrast, saturation, warmth, and tint sliders. And so for all 5 of those things, I can adjust those to get this picture to look just like I want. Now, generally, the brightness is the one that I will tend to adjust the most. You will see HDR photos stand out and just be remarkable when you've got high contrast in an image. So like I mentioned at Glacier National Park, we had lots of snow and ice. This winter, if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, or if you're on the beach in the Southern Hemisphere and it's summertime, anywhere you've got real bright scenes that your camera is generally going to have to darken in order to expose properly, but that might make people's faces too dark to see. HDR images are really going to shine in those cases. Now they've added some features here to the HDR app where it'll actually let me share from within the app, do some cropping, some framing, add texts. Usually what I do is just adjust the sliders down here like I want, and then I click the save button in the upper right corner, and what that's going to do is save that version of the picture there off to my photo roll, and I'll be able to do whatever I would like with that image. So after that saves, what I'm going to do is go ahead and click the home button. I'm going to go to my photo roll now to take a look at my pictures, and we'll talk a little bit about things that we can do with our pictures. So I've got 319 pictures. Looks like it's time for me to do a sync to my computer and get some of these off. And let's take a look at the 3 versions. This is the original HDR version that I took with the camera. It's actually not HDR. It's just the standard version. This is the iPhone camera app created HDR version, which is okay. And this is the one that I took, which in this case doesn't look tremendously different. I know that's not the most engaging picture we've ever seen before, but being here doing this video conference, I'm not looking at the spectacular mountains of Montana, so I'm not in this case giving you a great example live of a picture that we can take like that, but you get the idea. So first app recommendation, Pro HDR, $2, awesome, absolutely worth the money. Love that app. You pretty much use that every week. So let me go ahead and show you now some examples of pano or panoramic pictures. There are a fair number of different apps that can be used for panoramas. This first app that I'm going to show you after these examples is called Pano. There's one that Microsoft has that's free that's called Photosynth, which is okay. I've used this one called 360 degree panorama that I like quite a bit, and I'll go ahead and click on the actual links that we've got. And since I'm trying to view these in a web browser, it's popping up and saying, do you want me to open up iTunes? And I don't want it to do that right now. So 360-degree panorama, for instance, I've been in the state capitol for Oklahoma, here in Oklahoma City, and down in Texas in Austin, and it kind of allows you to paint and move your camera around to capture an entire scene. It is 99 cents unless you get it on an app a day or something like that, when you can download it for free. PhotoSynth is a free app, and it does work similar to 360 Panorama, where you're doing this, moving the camera around, and it's creating boxes and painting. Well, it sort of feels like painting. You're kind of wiping your camera lens across a scene, and it's going to capture successive images. But my favorite app is this one. It's Pano. It is $2, and I just absolutely love this. This app. I'm going to go ahead, pardon me, and just open up the Pano app, and I don't know if it'll still have the last Pano that I took on here. I think it may immediately go to the let me take a new one. So let me go ahead and do this. I'm gonna well, I've got a messy desk. I guess I'll do this. This is I have right now. I don't have a very high-tech setup here for my sun blocking. The sun's coming in here in the morning, and so I have a nice K-State towel that is there. Not a towel, it's a blanket that is there on the wall. So you get to see behind the scenes. It's not that fancy, but anyway, what I need to show you is how this will stitch images together. And so I can go ahead and click the checkbox and say make my Pano now. And in this case, it's only taking 2 images and it's stitching those together to put them together. I need to go ahead, I think, and rotate my phone here so that we'll be able to see this merged version. And this, the time that it takes to create this is dependent upon how long how many pictures that you've taken. If you do this with 9 or 10 pictures, it obviously is going to take longer, and also the processing power of your device. If you're using, I'm sure, the newer iPhone 4S that has an even faster processor, it's going to stitch those together. So, all right, again, that's not the most remarkable picture we've ever seen, but it is an example of how Pano stitches together pictures and allows you, without a tripod, without some kind of special device that clicks and gets you, exactly the right number of degrees. You just try to match those pictures up and have it stitch those together. Let me show you some examples of some pictures that I've taken with Pano, and I need to go ahead, and I think I will link some of these onto the website so that you can take a look. I had an opportunity to share a presentation in New York City at the beginning of the month of November, and so some of the pictures that I took are Pano shots, and let's see if I can, this was one of the things that you can do in Flickr that I like a lot is you can create collections, and you can also create sets. So I think I actually had more Pano shots when I was in Times Square. Let me see if I can find a good example of these. One of the things that I will do sometimes is I will go ahead and, there we go, tag the pictures Pano. In fact, I did that in this one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open this up in the original form, and so this picture is 4,830 pixels by 1,058 pixels, and so here we can go ahead and pan across, and you can see this is a pretty cool, remarkable picture. Now, sometimes you get some weird artifacts because there are people that are walking through here, but this is basically a 180-degree shot of Times Square, and there's no way that I could be capturing that broad of a view if I was just using the regular camera app. So that's using the Pano app. Let me go ahead and open that again and see if I can just search for some Pano images here. not all the pictures I took were panoramic. And again, this is why can be a good idea to get your pictures in advance. Let me just go up here and I'm going to type Pano and I'm going to search my photo stream. So what this is going to do is bring up all the pictures that I've ever taken that I tagged with the tag Pano. I'll click on recent and then we'll be able to go ahead and open some of these up. Here is a panoramic picture of Manhattan Island from Statue of Liberty, Liberty Island, I guess. And so we're looking across the water there. This is Manhattan Island, and again, this using the application Pano. This is a picture taken on Ellis Island at the area about peak immigration. And so this picture is 8,691 pixels wide. This particular scene was pretty amazing because, you know, there's just the imagery. It's so powerful just surrounding you. And there are some screens, but pretty much these are really, you know, in some cases floor to ceiling images of pictures and just a real stunning multimedia experience. And so in order to capture that, you know, I needed a better tool than just my regular camera. And so this is an actual 360-degree shot all the way around. Last thing I'll show you here, this is a picture of the registration room in Ellis Island. So this is 2,915 pixels. And you know, I kind of, in this one, it would have been sort of nice to have HDR because you can see the sunlight streaming in there. That's really bright, and I don't have really good exposure on that. But just a neat way to be able to capture, you know, something like that, a neat scene. So that application, again, is Pano. It is $2. Absolutely love that app. I will go ahead and add some links to those photographs if you want to check those out under examples. But I definitely say those apps are my favorite. Now let me go ahead and hide my browser, and I'll rotate my iPhone again, and I'm going to exit out, and I'll just go ahead and briefly mention a couple other apps for you here, and then I want to talk a little bit about sharing. And I think we're going to be we got about 20 more minutes to talk, so we're doing good. Another app, and a shout out to Dean Sharesky for letting me know about Pro HDR. That's how I learned about it on actually a Seedlings webcast that Bob Sprankle and Alice Barr and Cheryl Oakes did a few months back. Marco Torres, who is a California educator and a wonderful media guru, had told me about this app called Action. And the Action app it's called Action Camera. It will create multiple versions of a scene and take them all together and put them together. So what I'm going to do to show this one, and I haven't, I'm kind of embarrassed that I haven't posted images here on my 365 blog for a while. I've got pictures that I took. There we go. That's one taken a little bit before Thanksgiving, and that is my 8-year-old Rachel jumping on our trampoline in her Halloween costume, which was an astronaut outfit. And so by using that Action app, I pushed the button to take it, but it's kind of like when you have a motor drive on an older camera that's going to take a series like in burst mode. It is taking 4 different pictures and then it just puts them together right away in this nice frame where it's got those 4 pictures together. So that app is called Action Camera, and it is not free either. It does cost money. Slow shutter. I mentioned that when I was in Montana this last summer, I took some pictures of some water and was able to show it flowing and moving, and this is the app that I use to do that. It's called Slow Shutter. It's the only app I found that allows you to change the shutter speed. I have played a little bit with some tripods, and I was hoping maybe I could take some star trail pictures. I haven't had success doing that on the iPhone yet. I haven't spent hours and hours doing it. There's a Twitter account you can follow that will tell you where the International Space Station, date and time the space station passes over your house. And I sort of naively thought, well, I could do a little picture and capture the the star trail of the space station going across. It's not bright enough, and this app didn't work for that. Maybe sometime I'll work on it. But let me mention that the prompt that's here on the screen is important to know about. When we take pictures on a smartphone, generally the location information by GPS for where we are at the time we click the frame or click the shutter is going to be recorded in the meta information of our camera. So if we want to share that, that can be a really cool thing. And I might have time to show you on Flickr. In one of the sets that I did in Glacier National Park, I did that. I had that turned on, and so you can see where on this map we actually took these different pictures. But this can also be something that freaks people out and gets them really scared about smartphones and privacy, because if you don't realize it, your camera can be putting this location information in with your picture, and then when you post it on Facebook or share it somewhere else, people can find out where that picture was taken. So, for instance, if I'm at my house taking pictures, I will generally not, have that on, and I will not share images to Flickr or to other sites that have location information included. So you want to be aware of that, and you can change these settings. Like just right now, when I open up the app, I'll click Don't Allow, and that means the GPS information is not going to be saved here into that app. So that is the slow shutter app. I've played with some of these other apps, Pro Camera and Genius. Some of them will do some things with framing, but honestly, I haven't really found one of those that they absolutely love. So I tend to use the default app that comes with the iPhone, Pro HDR or Pano. Those are the ones that I use the most. Let's talk a little bit about photo editing, and then we'll talk about photo sharing. These apps that are here on the screen are the primary apps which I use to edit pictures, and some of these will allow you to add filters to pictures. Other ones are going to allow you to create collages and do other kinds of things. Let's first take a look at Camera Bag, which is probably my favorite filter app. So this one has a variety of different predefined filters. I'm going to click the button in the bottom right corner to open up a picture and go to my camera roll. And I'm going to go here to this picture that I took Sunday night when we were having a little dinner out to celebrate the end of the Annie musical and 16 performances. And so I've got a bunch of filters that I can apply to this one. This one is called Helga. If I click here at the top, you can see all the different filters that I can apply. And some of these are going to have black and white effects. You can see some of them are going to crop the picture. I can just flip from left to right or right to left and go through these. Low really brightens up and makes, I think, the saturation pretty high. Plastic does too, although it kind of looks weird. It just depends on the picture and what you're taking, which one of these is going to be good. Instant makes it look like it's a Polaroid, camera, so it puts that Polaroid frame around it. That's a new one, Light Leak. I hadn't seen that one, so that makes it look like you had damage to your camera. It's kind of funny that some of these bring out what used to be errors in photography, but we're recreating those. This silver one just kind of makes it look like a black and white image. There's 1962, and I think there's 1964. I'm going to go ahead and just go with the silver one. And what I'm going to do to save it is click on the icon of the disk. Remember the floppy disk? It's funny how that sort of persists and in some places to mean save. And so now on my photo roll, I've got the original copy of that picture, but then I've also got this edited or enhanced version that I can share. So that's an example of Camera Bag. Let's take a look at the app Color Splash. Love this app. This app allows you to basically create photos with an effect like you would see where everything's black and white except there's one thing that is red. Or that's in color. Let me load up my last session. You can see this one that's finished. So this is a picture of my girls, and you can see there's only one person who's in color, and that would be Rachel. So if I load the session, you can kind of see how this looks, because you're going to paint over the picture with your finger. At the top, there's two modes. You can be in the color mode, or a lot of times I like to click on this red mode, and then I'm going to pinch with my fingers to zoom in. And you can see what I have done here is I have very precisely painted over that this image so that just the part that I want to have in color is painted over. Everything else doesn't have any paint over it, or I'm saying paint. It's it's a digital mask that I'm making. So let me kind of see if I can grab a picture real quick and show you how that works. I'm going to go ahead and start a new session, and I'm not going to save changes, and I'm going to load an image that I have on my computer. So I need to look for a picture that might work and be appropriate for this, and I don't know exactly what I'm going to do here. Maybe I'll go ahead and do this one. This is a picture of Rachel standing outside the house, I think when we were starting to get some cold weather. One of the places I've seen this effect used are on cards where there's a kid, handing a rose to somebody, and the rose is red and everything else is black and white. So I like to pinch the picture to make it larger first, and then I go ahead and start painting with my finger. So I'm just painting over this. Again, I could go into the color mode to do this, and you can see here in this picture, see how it's painting over with color. I think it's easier to use this app in this red mode. If I put 2 fingers down on the app, it's going to move or zoom. And where it gets tricky is definitely around the edges. So what you can do is you can zoom in real precisely so that you get around the edges. Now you may have noticed up here I messed up. So at the bottom it says color, and there's also a button that says gray. So I'm going to click on gray, and then I'm going to paint on the outside, and you can see how I'm removing the color over there on that side. So let's pinch out a little bit, click color, and you can see how that's starting to look. So, oops. My Mac is checking for software. So that is a wonderful, very cool app. Love that one. Again, it is called Color Splash. I want to say it's $3. I don't know what the price is currently, but it's not free. Hat tip to Marco Torres again for sharing that app. Let me show you Diptyque, which is another one that I really like. Diptyque allows us to make photo collages, and so we can take different pictures and put them together and make a collage. Similar to what Action Camera does with 4 pictures, but Action Camera has taken all those pictures at the same time, kind of like a motor drive. This one is not. So I'm going to, first of all, choose the layout that I want. I'm going to select this middle one that has a large horizontal picture at the top and then 2 squares at the bottom. And then I simply click in the middle and choose where I want to get the picture. I'm going to choose to select it from my photo album, and I will go ahead and pick that photograph of the family at the restaurant that we'll put here in the top. This also speaks to the idea that it's nice to keep pictures on your device, because you can edit them. And I'm not exactly sure how I feel about iCloud syncing everything. I end up taking more pictures than I really want to share. So anyway, we haven't navigated iCloud yet. I'm going to probably upgrade to that here sometime before too long, but I haven't done it yet. So I'm just selecting other pictures that I want to put in here. I can pinch to make these large or small. So there's just a little shot of my eye. And I'll choose one more picture here. And we'll pick another shot of Rachel. And I think she's holding, the Kindle, or no, it's the Barnes & Noble color tablet. All right, so I can pinch and get those. So that's just not the best photos collage you've ever seen in your life, but it gives you an idea of how that works, and so how I select my pictures. I can go to transform and apply different kinds of transformations and effects on this image. I usually don't do that. What I basically do is make my collage and go ahead and click the export button. I have an opportunity to export it as a high res or a normal image. I click in the upper right corner where the arrow goes up, and here's all the places that I can share it. I can immediately put it on Flickr, Posterous, Instagram. I usually choose to save it to my photo roll and then I save it, or then I share it from there. So it does its magic, applying its tape and glue and slicing and dicing, lining everything up, and then it gives you that exported picture which shows up on your photo roll with the rest of your pictures. So those are a few different apps that I really love to use and enjoy using for capturing and then also for editing. One other one that I'll mention, but this isn't as big a deal if you've upgraded to iOS 5, is PS Express, Photoshop Express. I use this a lot just for cropping images. That's a feature that now Apple has integrated into iOS 5, so I probably won't end up using that as much when I finally do the upgrade. But it just is really nice to select an image and then with your finger be able to make a crop on it. So I'll click on the pencil that I want to edit the picture. I'm going to, once it pops up here, click in the upper left corner on the crop tool, and there's options to crop, straighten, rotate, flip. Again, most of these things now are built into the operating system. But if you have an older phone or an older iPod Touch that doesn't have iOS 5, this is a free app that you can use. So I simply drag that square around the part of the picture that I want to keep, and I click OK, and it crops it. And then in the bottom right corner of the screen, I've got a picture of an arrow going down. That's what I click again to save it to the photo roll. So each of these apps is going to allow us to take images from our photo roll, do things with them, and then usually save them out as a new image inside the photo roll that we can then share and do things with. I'll mention 2 other apps, but I don't think I'll actually go into them right now, looking at time. But I want to mention the Photo Studio app and then I think it's called Tune Studio as well. By the way, you don't want to exit your app, like in this case when it's saving, until it's finished. If you do, in the cases that I've seen, the saving process doesn't complete, and so you might lose the image that you've created. So now that saving process is done, I can click my home button, leave the app, and I've got that on my photo roll. So I'm not going to open up these apps, but I will definitely give a shout out to them for you to check them out. Photo Studio has hundreds of filters on it, just kind of a mind-blowing array of filters. I like Camera Bag a little bit better maybe because it's not as overwhelming with so many choices, and I really like the choices that they've selected. But Photo Studio has other effects, and those are allow you to do some neat things with them. One of those is to make things black and white, and I've used that app Monofix that you see above it. I think it gives you maybe more precise control over doing the black and white adjustments. Toon Camera changes your picture to look like a cartoon, and so you can adjust that. Comic Touch lets you actually make cartoons where you put in little speech bubbles and stuff like that. So those are all apps for photo editing. A lot of those worth checking out. Last thing that I want to point out and talk about are ways for sharing or for uploading. And these are the apps that I currently have in a folder on my iPhone called Upload. And there are 2 that I use the most. Let's talk, I guess, first about TwitPic, and then we'll talk about Tumblr. There's a very famous picture that was taken of the aircraft, which landed on the Hudson River when it had an aircraft emergency, and it was taken on TwitPic. In fact, if we jump over here to to Google or to the Chrome browser in Google, and we say TwitPic plane on the Hudson, and just Google for that, we will probably have that picture come up, and there it is. I'll go ahead and link this in. But this was taken by Janice Crumbs on January 15th, 2009, and it's been viewed 802,000 times. And Janice was just, I think, riding the ferry across the Hudson River, and right then, the plane had landed, snapped a picture, and was able to post it online. So TwitPic is a program that allows you to take a picture right within the app. I usually like to take my pictures outside of my app and then post and share them. I can select any picture that I've taken. So this can be something that I've edited as a collage in Diptyque, or taken with Pro HDR or something else. I go ahead and type whatever I want to be here in the caption. This is going to go to Twitter because it's connected to my Twitter account. And so one of the things that I will oftentimes do is use a hashtag that relates to this, different hashtags are used for different things. I've used the hashtag iPhoneography to say that this is a picture, taken with an iPhone. But when I click send, that image is out there. And because of the way we're connected now with social networks, the opportunities for pictures of different events to be retweeted and sent out is pretty astounding. And I want to mention that there's an important responsibility we need to discuss with students, because these kinds of tools are now in the pockets of more and more students. And I'm not I'm not getting the sense that enough adults are talking with students about the responsibility that goes with having this kind of power in your pocket. Just because you can take a picture and you can take a video doesn't mean that it's appropriate to do so or that it's appropriate to share it. And we've definitely heard stories about sexting, and probably every high school in America has had, some kind of incident with that. I just read a research report this week that the percentage of that is probably, they think, is far less than was earlier reported, but it's a problem, it's an issue, and these are powerful tools. So I think it's a great thing for us as educators to use a tool like TwitPic to see how that works and to have that conversation with students about, well, what are some examples of things that would not be a good idea to share, with your class, or not just with your class, with the world. We had a situation happen this last week. Well, I guess it was 2 weeks ago, maybe it was right before Thanksgiving, and I wrote a post about this. It was in Kansas. We had a student who went with her class to the state capitol and on a field trip, and I'll link this post. I called it the high school student tweet heard around Kansas. She made a comment about the governor, and the governor's office called her principal, and she got interrogated, and it led to this whole kind of blow up. It wasn't a picture, but it was a student in high school who was using Twitter, using, I think, a phone in order to share that. And there were consequences that happened. I don't think that in this case the person who was working for the governor's office as their communications director probably made the best decision, jumping on this high school student for exercising her free speech rights. But we need, that student was probably not thinking that 15,000 people would be following her on Twitter a couple weeks later. So there are lots of different examples of how we need to talk about this. And here, when we get to the sharing part, we really see how this can be it can be a disruptive thing. So let me talk about several of these apps, and then I'll show you one more, and then I think we're going to unfortunately be out of time. Tumblr I'll talk about last. There are a couple apps that I use to post to blogs currently. You can see BlogPress on here. It hasn't been working as well, and maybe that's because I need to update my iPhone. But I really, really am liking the most recent version of WordPress for iOS. It is free. Any WordPress blog that you have, whether it's on WordPress.com or it's on your own domain, self-hosted, you can post text, you can post photos, and you can also even moderate comments here in this app. And so you could be posting from your phone to your WordPress blog. Posterous is one of my favorite sites because you can email content in to post them. But it also has an app, both for the iPhone and for the Android phone. And so you can track your activity. You can go to your different spaces. I'm going to say this is going to load up the reader for the ones that I follow. But here are different Posterous blogs that I've set up. And I can go in here and take a look at what's there. And I think I can also actually moderate content here from within the app. So in order to add a new post on one of my spaces, I can click this center button here that looks like a pencil. That's going to be a new post, and I go ahead and put a title in. I'm just going to put test, and then you can see I have a little camera icon there underneath. If I click that camera icon, it goes ahead and shows me what's on my photo roll, and so I could go ahead and select one or more pictures that I would like to have go onto that post. When I click the send button in the upper right corner, off they go, and those pictures will be on my Posterous blog. So Posterous is a good tool. The other thing I'll mention about Posterous is you can use Posterous to post pictures via email. Flickr does that as well. For your Flickr account, you get a custom email address that you can use to post. So if I simply find a picture on my photo roll, I click the arrow there in the corner, and I say that I'd like to email that photo out. And so one of the things that I'll do frequently is I'll use Posterous. I've got a Posterous address there set up in my address book. If you use post@posterous.com, that will cross-post to other sites that you may have tied in to your account. But if you use full Posterous at posterous.com, it doesn't cross-post. So I use that to just put different links and things like that on a site that I'm using. But that ability to post via email is huge because most folks who are going to have a smartphone or a mobile tablet device like this are going to have the capability to email, and being able to use email to share content, rich media content, I think is a really big deal. So remember that you can share via email. You can also share via apps. The last one that I'll mention is the app that I'm using for my 365 blog, and it is called Tumblr, and very similar to Posterous. It is a quick process. So I come in here to the app. Down at the bottom, it's got a dashboard, a place to post blogs. I can go ahead and click the post link there in the middle. It asks what would you like to post. I select photo with the camera icon, and then the same process, I'm going to choose a photo from my photo roll that I would like to post online. I go ahead and put the caption. In the case of a Photo 365 blog, I will oftentimes, I always will put the day. This is just kind of a syntax that some people are using. So I'll do the day of the year 365/2011, and then give this a title. I could call it Family Montage, and this is where I also sometimes will put a hashtag. So I might put iPhoneography as a hashtag. And I might also put as a hashtag, in this case, 365 photos, because some people are following 365 photo projects, and if you use that hashtag, other people will be able to find it. I have connected my Tumblr account to Twitter. So at the time I click post, not only does it go to my Tumblr site, it also goes immediately to Twitter. And so I guess this might be just kind of the last thing to close with a little bit as I wrap up, is thinking about the importance of digital citizenship. iPhoneography is a wonderfully engaging thing to do. It is great to take pictures. It is wonderful to preserve memories. It's exciting to get to share those with others and to be able to let people, vicariously experience things with us and connect with us and see things that we're seeing. It's also an amazing thing to be able to be a citizen journalist today and to be able to document things that we can share. But all of these things have responsibility that goes with them. This is a powerful tool. It is an incredible thing to be able to record images, audio, video, type text, and be able to share that with a global audience. So my encouragement to you is to, surprise, surprise, play with media. I want you to play with some of these iPhone apps. But I would also encourage you to play with the apps that allow you to share them online and allow you to share them out to social networks, because we need to be experts in communication and literacy today as school teachers, and I'll be speaking as an educator here. And if we are not using these media tools and getting this understanding of how they work, it's very difficult for us to have the conversations we need to have with students involving these kinds of media tools and media resources. So, good luck to you. I would love to hear from you. If this podcast has inspired you in any way to enhance your own iPhoneography and photography activities, you can send me a tweet at wfryer. I've also got other contact information on my website, westfryer.com, and encourage you to share your passion that you have for photography and iPhoneography with your students and with others, beyond just the sharing of the apps. Let's talk a lot about the responsibilities that go with having these powerful tools in our pockets and the constructive and positive ways that we can and should be using these tools, not only in the classroom, but outside the classroom as well. Thanks a lot. We'll see you next time.